Hello and welcome back to the Rainbow Room International podcast channel. I'm Ricardo Corvey and we're halfway through talking to salon director Will Fleeson. If you haven't watched the first part, you need to, because it is multi-layered and quite frankly fascinating, regardless of whether you know the guy or not. If you haven't watched the first one, watch the first one first, then come back and join us for part two. Today's podcast has been sponsored by Mataki Scissors. And I'm an ambassador for the brand, and I've been using them now for about 7 months, and they have been amazing. The fact that they're a British-based company, the fact that we can pick up the phone and work with them, and we can get everything sharpened with them has been absolutely unique. So today's podcast is brought to you with the help of Mataki Scissors. Right, well, part two. We left with you standing outside a fire-ridden, mushroom-growing shell of an ex-Indian restaurant that you could just see through the window. And needless to say, from the spirit of your first podcast, you've went, yes, let's start, and we're jumping in. And
again,
so from the point of seeing it in that state, deciding that Stirling was going to be the beginning of your franchise journey, how long did it take to get open from then?
Well, took them 3 months to dry out the building, literally. So we had the discussion. And Alan was like, if we're doing this, we're doing it. And he says, are you sure? Because he was going to go and buy the building.
Yeah.
So he said, there can be no backward steps. You can't bottle it or anything. So yeah, I'm sure, let's in. So I think that discussion started in 99, very, very late or early 2000. Went to see it, and then I opened on December the 4th, 2000. So
it's pretty quick. It's pretty really quick from the state that it was in.
It would have been quicker, but literally that building had to be dried out and then ripped out and then started to be built.
And it was quite a unique space. It was a big space.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the obvious space to put a salon in, was it?
So I think the original building was a baker's.
Right.
And because when they stripped the salon out, they found a brick spiral staircase that went to the flats, but it was obviously bricked up, so there's flats above it. Uh-huh. So as it turns out, and when I was in the salon, obviously people were coming in from the area that told me all about it. So before the restaurant, it was a family-owned baker's for like hundreds of years or whatever it was. And they worked downstairs and lived upstairs. So it was kind of a, not a dog leg, but it was a big open space, and there was a little, walkway around there. So for them to develop the space was quite interesting, because they were putting walls up to partition the space. So there was a lot of square footage. Like the staff room was massive, for example, toilets. So it was a great space to work, and it had this huge ceiling in it. Yeah. And they actually dropped the ceiling by 1.5 meters.
Wow.
And it was still high.
It was still high.
Yeah. So it was like a cavern of a place, And of course, Dougie did his Doughiness on it.
Dougie did his magic, didn't it? It was stunning, and it was that natural evolution of the looks that he'd done leading up to that point. But
I remember they put aircon in. And that was a huge deal.
That's right, that was a big deal. You kind of,
Yeah.
Because I still to this day can't remember at the point that B Street got it, but how on earth did anybody survive in B Street with that? Still can't.
Windows. Do you remember your windows?
Yeah,
humidity windows.
Yeah, but nothing came through. They're too high up. Nothing ever came through them. That was amazing.
It's always good at recycling perm solutions now as
well. The other juxtaposition, obviously, from going from the size of Great Western Road, having an office.
Yes.
You had an office space.
Yes.
And obviously, as you say, this giant staff room, as opposed to one that two people couldn't stand in, was obviously amazing. That night before.
Oh, sick.
And as usual, sort of Dougie and Gina and Gus will be in scraping the floors and tidying up and helping you get
stock in, putting stock in.
All that old perm lotion that Alan hit us with.
I have to honestly tell you a secret. I never did the night before.
Did you not?
No. I was literally working the night before. I think I was doing a thing for Schwarzkopf.
So you're away working with Schwarzkopf, and then you've come in done the classic Will,
Yeah.
drop the shoulder,
In
the
I go.
salon's already
Morning.
gone.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone else is looking knackered.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But, well, there's an opposite side to that, is because you're not there.
Yeah.
And, well, is your mind taken off of it because you're away doing that with Schwarzkopf, or the hanging about in airports waiting to go home is just building the
No,
anticipation?
Nerves had really kicked in.
Yeah.
I had to say, because, you know, we talked about when I first moved up and all of that type of thing, but now I had, you know, a house. I had things to lose now.
Yeah, responsibilities are different.
Responsibilities that were different. So this had to work, you know. And I remember us opening, and oh God, I was so nervous. And in the first week, I don't know, a handful of people rolled through, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know.
And you're seeing a different opening scenario than what you saw at Great Western Road, of course.
The complete opposite, you know. And I was like, right, okay. And I was literally trying to find things to do for the team and stuff like that, you know, that's how it was. And then suddenly, you know, it started to get rolling, because that was December the 4th. And then literally in the second week, clients had started to come in, and then suddenly it just got going at that point, you know. But we only had a small team, you know. We had 3 stylists, you know, the usual. Of course, you know, you've got your 3 stylists, and you've got your 1 fathering stylist, and you've got your 1 assistant, and off you go. So we got through our first Christmas. I think we made enough in that first Christmas, you know, to have something in the bank, because I had no money when I opened it. And, you know, that's the whole success about Rainbow Room, isn't it? Alan and Linda gave opportunities to people that they thought
it wasn't about you turning up and buying a franchise.
No,
it
wasn't.
Because it's interesting, because they did have that, you know, they tried to get me open for Christmas as well, and a bit like yourself, they had to down tools and all that kind of stuff, so we didn't go open until the April. But actually, I think that worked better for me, because I didn't have to deal with January and February and not being busy, whereas you've opened the door, you know, you've had this busy period, and then it's like, right, okay, I've got this period to fill in. So again, yes, that then creates opportunities, because you're training, you're motivating, you're teaching, you're doing all of that kind of stuff. So from opening the doors to going, right, this is happening, how long a kind of timeline was that, did you feel? How long do you think it took you?
Oh, I would say by the April and May, you know, so pretty quickly, because there was enough in the bank just to get us through that quiet period, you know, that you get in January.
Of course,
and then it really started to gain traction from them. Then we started getting the applicants, you know, so people were coming in and applying for jobs. So we started to increase the stylist base. I mean, you know, my wing guy there, Douglas, as well, he joined me as an apprentice there, and he turned out to be an absolute legend, superstar in that. So there was a nice little nucleus of team, and it was quite interesting, because the people were coming for the job. So a girl came in, and she'd met a guy on holiday who was from Stirling. She came from Chester, and she just decided to move up to settle down. But she was a great hairdresser. About a month after that, another girl came in. She just moved up from London, met a guy on holiday, decided to come up. So it wasn't necessarily people from the area. It was actually not mature stylists, but seasoned stylists that knew what they were doing. And then we had this kind of young team coming through. And then it became really kind of male dominated, which was normal then. So I probably had about 2 or 3 female stylists. But about 5, 6, 7, 8 male stylists, you know, just seemed to be guys coming through, and the team just were absolutely brilliant.
I mean, we're sitting at 2025. I mean, I've seen there was more than 60% guys in Buchanan Street when I was training. 15. I mean, there was just millions of you at that point, and even 24 for a long time. Whereas I've not had an interview, an assistant, or a guy come in for a job, and probably since 2019, I think, probably, for myself. And I don't know whether that's the rise of barbering becoming more of a thing, the perception of earning power, cost of living, all that kind of stuff, and guys going, well, I'm not going to be able to, you know, have a wife or kids or get a car or a house, you know, and they're putting that on themselves
Yeah.
as opposed to the industry putting that on them.
Yeah.
But it is amazing when you think that there's been this absolute sort of just lack of guys coming
Yeah.
through into
Yeah.
the industry. So within that sort of 6 months, was it really interesting actually that you were ended up surrounding yourself with people that did the same thing as you, that had come up?
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, yeah, that was it. And then because I suppose I was very receptive to it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have this whole, or I'd rather develop my own team.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it was like, because the salon was getting busy then.
Yeah,
I needed bodies.
Of course.
But they were very talented in their own right.
I think what that's great. Sorry,
they were attracted to the brand.
Yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
and I think the whole Sterling thing for me, what made it exciting was taking this very, you know, strong brand into a, you know, moderate sized town.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and bringing the whole Rainbow Room experience
Of course.
to that town.
Yeah.
Which was like mind blowing.
Of course.
You know, so you know, it was basically taking city centre hairdressing.
Yeah,
Here.
exactly. And it was definitely unique. And I think as well, something that jumps out from that sort of comment of these was that if you were a local and you went in expecting this to be this different experience, and there was loads of different accents and loads of different looking people and folk that actually weren't from the town, probably made it a wee bit more unique. I kind of got away with it because a lot of my stylists were guys and girls from Ayr, but they came to Buchanan Street for 6 months. Now, they didn't want to come to Buchanan Street for 6 months, but because we were that delayed, but it actually worked in their favour.
Yeah.
Because instead of people going, oh, well, you know, just working around the corner last week, they go, well, no, actually, I've been working with the brand now for 6 months in Glasgow.
Yeah.
So that was a fluke that worked out for me. Whereas you've instantly got that everybody looks different, everybody sounds different.
Yeah.
You're not from round here, you know, which is
we had
really
an
unique.
Australian girl called Kylie,
Yeah.
believe it or not. So she joined, and so she met a guy in Australia who was a farmer from Stirling, decided they wanted to come back. He wanted to farm again in Stirling.
Wow.
She was amazing. She only cut with a razor.
Yeah.
Only. Didn't use scissors at all. So that was a kind of point difference. Got a guy started in South Africa, came from South Africa.
Yeah.
His wife was from Scotland, and they decided to come back to the UK.
Yeah.
So we had this, you know, English accents, Australian accents, South African accents, and then underneath that, that's was your Douglases, and that's when we developed. So that kind of gave me breathing space to develop a team underneath that. So we had these seasoned hairdressers that really knew what they were doing. But, you know, the reason they thrived was the same reason I thrived. They came into a philosophy, a Rainbow Room philosophy, that is all about career building. Yeah. So they were career people. They were career hairdressers. Yeah. They would move from another country or another town. They had to make money quickly.
They had to make it work. Yeah,
but what they could see in the interview was exactly what I saw in the interview in 1996, because nothing's changed. Yeah. This is our framework, and this is how you build a clientele, and this is your earning, and this is your commissions, and if you hit that, you earn that. And they were seeing these like period bonuses, annual bonuses, you know, like that. What, that's on top of what I earn in commission? To say, we, you know, and this is what. So, you know, the earning potential has always been there in our industry, employed, and always been there within our brand. Again, it's the desire to do it. These people are in the same position.
It's the number. We've decided that a certain amount of clients is busy now. Yeah. And at no point have our generation told that next generation that that is. They've kind of decided that that's what they think's busy, and then it's now our fault that the earning potential is then the same as what it was then. We go, well, we didn't tell you to do half the clients we did, you know, and I think that's an issue. But that's hairdressing in the industry and the techniques, and it's a wider story that we certainly don't have an hour to deal with. Yeah. But I think that whole aspect of you getting all these different accents, all these different people under the banner of Rainbow Room International, and coming in, and it is an international salon. It's fantastic. So you've opened the door, having just done training outsourced for Schwarzkopf at the time. did you give that up for a while to concentrate on the business and to concentrate on your salon for a while as well?
Yeah, I think I ran the art team with Susie for another, I think, a year, maybe two, you know, and I was doing stuff. And I had done artistic team work for Rainbow Room for 10 years, you know, and I kind of not got it out of my system, but I'd been to South America, I'd been to Europe, I'd travelled extensively, I'd done British Hair Awards, all of these type of things. So at that point I thought, right, I now want to focus on building people and building a business. So gradually, just as people had done before me, started to move away from the artistic thing. Susie was there to take it all over and move it into what she's done with it now, which
There's
is
an energy thing there as well, though, obviously, because it's a huge commitment. Everybody likes to see the bit where you're getting all the applause on stage, or you see the photograph and that's great, and none of the time and energy and toil that's went into either creating the show or creating the image or whatever.
Well, at that time, because Susie had joined, so what we used to do is when we were doing photo shoots, we would have local girls with local photographer.
Yeah.
Now we're doing shoots down in London with London models. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to cast, build a photographic shoot, go and see your photographer in between 30 or 40 clients in a week with no dry spaces in the salon. So it was kind of one of those things that, you know, I just felt that now needs to be somebody else's thing completely. I've really enjoyed it. Now it's all about building business, building people.
You've never 100% taken your toe out of that water, though, have you, as well? Like we've kind of all done, in that every so often it'll be, I'll come back and do a bit of this, or you know, you're doing stuff at Congress and Compare and bits and bobs as well, just to keep yourself in that. And obviously, you know, like we all do, you know, you take an amazing class at the academy once a year for the stylists as well. So it's not that it ever really goes away, but
it's a general love of the industry. I mean, you know, I genuinely mean I love hairdressing today every much as I did in 1986. Haven't, you know, clients are saying, what are you going to do in 5 years, 10 years time? I said, I never actually see myself not cutting hair. Genuinely, I just, you know,
always say I cut hair, therefore I am.
Till he's until the fingers, you know, like that, you know, just like that, and trying to go through. So, but no, it's, and so to keep involved in that is great, and it keeps you current, and you know, there's so much great stuff to learn. But
you've done, you know, you did a, you know, over a decade at that level as a chunk of work, and then that's obviously not including all the stuff you've done in Manchester. So it's not as if you hadn't earned your spurs in doing that, but obviously the kind of enormity's not the right word, but you've got to put your focus into the business, and you know, and now you're hopefully giving your gang those opportunities to get to do the things that you did. But you were the first to have that unique issue of assistants having to travel to Glasgow and back.
Yes.
So continuity of training night now becomes an issue for a salon like yourself. And then also people want to join the art team, because it isn't like what we did, where basically the clients would ship out, the pizza would arrive, and then the models would arrive. We didn't go anywhere. That was it. You know, well, for me, I had to walk the whole time to 24 or 15. It wasn't really that much. So, but Douglas and these guys, they got involved pretty soon, and they were doing the travel. And obviously, you know, you had these first bank of assistants, you know, with this hour journey in the morning. How did you sort of operate around that?
People wanted to work for the brand.
Yeah.
They saw the opportunity there, so there was never any issues. With it's an hour there, you do your academy, and it's an hour back. It's, you know, right, we're finishing up now, we're going through to the city centre to do art team stuff. People just wanted to do it because there was opportunities and there was careers there. And I think that once you build a salon, which is very much the cornerstone of Rainbow Room salons, all of our salons, it's apprentices becoming academy stylists, becoming successful. Yeah. So when an apprentice was starting and they saw Douglas, because Douglas was my first one, you know, to go through. So when I opened, probably within year 2, he'd made it as a stylist. And he was a flyer, so he was like taking, you know, but like every 2-3 times a year he's going up promotions. So that then was what they saw, you know. So they thought, well, great, I want to be a part of that.
That's the norm.
Yeah, because there's the role model that they were leading into. So I think every apprentice could see if they were good enough, there was a career opportunity there for them. So getting into the city centre was never an issue. And then we used to have the training nights in the salon as well. You know, bizarrely we used to do training mornings.
Did you?
Yeah. It was a strange thing. Our evenings were always far busier on the salon floor than the mornings. You know, so we would maybe open at 8 in the morning, and we'd train from 8 till 9 or 8 till 10, and then the salon would start. And I would stagger the stylists as well. You know, so we'd have stylists starting at 9, then we'd have them starting at 9:45, then 10:30, and by 10:30 the salon was rocking and rolling. But it would go on till like 9 o'clock at night. I mean, it just...
And that's the beginning of another thing where you've got a commuter clientele.
Yes.
You know, that they're either, you know, they're working, they're coming back in. You know, obviously the West End was, everybody was living there. You know, they were, again, but they were late night as well, weren't they? Because they were kind of finishing work. Whereas obviously the city centre was very much people coming to us or working there and coming in, you know, so like lunch times would be massive, your 5:15s would be massive, that kind of thing. But you know, you're certainly getting that, and you're a commuter belt, whether it's Edinburgh or Glasgow.
Well, it was. I mean, actually then that's when I really realised what Stirling was. You know, it's this central hub. People, and then of course they were coming in, and then they're into the salon after that. So, you know, you learn, as you know yourself, as you're going through with your business. Do you know what I mean? And again, that's another Rainbow Room amazing thing, because we have our collection of, you know, directors, and we sit and have the meetings, and then you've always got the knowledge of Linda and Alan,
of course,
and you kind of go and say, this is what's happening, and they say, well, why don't you just switch that to that, and you know, try that, and why don't you stagger your stylists, and offering that to stylists, and of course they loved it. You know, like, oh yeah, I'd rather start later and stay on later, and some are like, well, I'd rather start early and finish early. So we had that fluidity there. I was definitely a member of the 10:30 to 7:30 camp. That was an option. It wasn't actually an option given to me. I was basically told that was you're getting that one. No, they told you started at 9, but you got there. I just started at 10:30. That's why I knew I had to have one salon. The again as well, it's that evolution thing from your story that just keeps jumping out all the time, and then making sure that the salon evolved around the situation that it was needing as well. And then, so you've then went through credit crisis 2008 in the business, which was really monumental for me, and I'm not even going to go back down that road in my podcast. I've got people emailing me telling me they had to stop their car during mine and all that, and I went, it was meant to be a laugh, sorry. But you know, how did that kind of period plan out? So I suppose we saw things. So you saw this, didn't you? You listened to it because it was very much a London thing, you know, sort of financial district and stuff. And is this knocking through? But what suddenly happened was clients suddenly changed their visit cycles, like really quickly. So the affordable luxury stuff suddenly dropped off really quickly. Style drives, weekly style drives, for example. And then we're into a world of people wanting to be able to look after their hair at home. I don't want to need to go into the salon. I want to be able to do it. And I want this to last me 3 or 4 months rather than 8 weeks. So whilst we retained our clientele, we dropped the volume of visits from that clientele. So we had to then fill in that space by developing more clients and things like that. So then we were doing loads of stuff. So we would get involved in, you know, kind of going up to Stirling Castle to do events up there when they're doing stuff and trying to get the brand out there. That's when hard work suddenly came in. You know, it had been amazing. I just thought this is going to go on forever. You know, this is great. It's going to go on further. And it was that sudden a jolt, you know. So suddenly you had to think really strongly about cash flow, about, are you going to take a chance on a stylist? You know, before you could go, right, well, let's see how they work out. Now you had to go, no, they need to work. They need to be able to make this happen, you know, even down to apprentices, you know. Apprentice costs were going up, you know, so in like, right, I can't just bring in people now, you know, to see who's going to work. I need to see, cherry pick who's going to be the future stylist. Everything became far more strategic and a much more kind of monetized business at that particular point. As hard as it was,
as dramatic a period of time as it was, and quite frankly, I would have wished it had never happened. It has left us all in a stronger position to
100%.
where the world is just now, because obviously we're COVID and post-COVID, and we were only just we're nearly 9 years, 10 years out of the sort of austerity, and we were just starting to go, all right, people are enjoying it. And,
I remember,
and we were starting to be able to take risks on stylists again, and then bang, the doors are shut. And we've probably never been able to loosen the collar that much since then as well. But I don't think, from a purely business perspective, we would all still be in as strong a position, and to have the franchises and to have the brand and have it in the same position it was pre-COVID, if we hadn't all have went through the pain of the credit crisis. I think we learnt so much. We
learnt so much. That's what it was. I remember those around the table meetings. And, you know, no one was panicking, but we knew there was a seismic change. But then that's where, again, the value of Linden Allen came in. Steady hands, been there, seen it and done it. And their education and guidance at that point was absolutely, you know, massive. You couldn't even put a value on that.
What was interesting, I felt, was that you kind of thought you knew it.
You
kind of thought you knew, you know, and hadn't really went through anything really that huge, and certainly not collectively. Maybe one salon had lost a couple of stylists and were struggling, and, you know, we would be able to help that person and get involved in their motivation. But we were all sitting around the table at the same time going, WTF, and, you know, but certainly I always remember us all going through, you know, we used to be part of 365, and we all got sent to Edinburgh because they were trying to maybe get us to come back, and we went to that thing, and the guy gets up and, you know, he talked about profit and loss and how important profit and loss was, and he went, you know, be honest, put your hand up right now if you know exactly what your profit and loss is for this year and what your break-even figure is. And only 8 people put their hands up, and it was the 8 of us. Now that's because we had to go to Alan and Linda at the start of each financial year. Whether, you know, it wasn't because we were, you know, we had to go. But that was an eye opener for me, because I'm sitting here with some serious people in this room, and this is it. He's not going to sell much ice cream going that fast, is he, Willie? It's like, when he's going to need to slow down. He's not going to get any cones at the back of that van going that fast. If you know, you know. But yeah, hugely important. And it was maybe one of those learning curves that, you know, we probably didn't want at the time, but we did that.
But there shows the resilience not only of the industry but the brand. You know, and actually, because we had all come through together as directors, we all knew each other as stylists, art team members, so we're all so close. I think everyone felt very comfortable talking about the challenges that they had in their business, you know, rather than putting on this, you know, everything's absolutely great. But having said that, when we look through it, the businesses were very resilient. You know, when we look at that time and actually going, well, that's great, but that's because we were always taught that, you know, you have to have this stable underpinning to your business. That was Linden Allen's teachings, you know, just for these days coming through. And I think because we took that on board, that's why everything turned around again.
Definitely. So the journey in Stirling, great. You know, you build it through. You've had amazing people come through there, and you're sort of 20 years and then 25 years sort of coming to sort of natural sort of conclusion. And then obviously this opportunity comes to take over the mothership.
Yes.
Is massive. So sort of explain to everybody sort of not the winding down of Stirling, but the sort of end of that journey, and then the beginning of you know, jumping into B Street.
So Stirling was, because I always stayed living in Glasgow, so it was an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back, and that was never a problem. And halfway through the Stirling journey, the Buchanan Street opportunity came around. Now by that point I'd married Shannon, you know, and we're together, and it's all about this timing thing. It just happened to be we were having a chat with Linda and Alan, and I think something in there, or Alan's psyche, had decided this is the right time to pass this through. And we just happened to be there at the time saying, this is doing really well, this is Stirling, we're ready for another opportunity, and we wanted to do something together. And I think his thinking was, it was such a big beast, Buchanan Street. It probably needed, you know, sort of that tandem team.
Definitely.
You know, where Shannon was always going to be the front person. You know, she's the salon leader, but the two of us together, you know, was going to make it much stronger. And that was another one of those, you know, it was just a conversation that suddenly developed into a serious business proposition. And it was like, well, this is it. Now you need to make a decision now. Yeah. So that's what we did. So we made that decision, and I remained in Stirling, and Shannon ran Buchanan Street. And that was going absolutely amazing. So a few years later, I was starting to get physical health problems with, you know, with the knee, and traveling was becoming really, really difficult. And
it's a long story of 5 asides.
Yes,
that have taken its toll over the years.
And it literally resulted in a replaced knee, you know, at 50, you know, which is really young. So I was told by my consultant, you can't do that because that's going to give you major problems going forward. Right. Because I was literally getting out of the car and I couldn't move for half an hour.
And that's a body position thing?
Yeah. So we knew, and at this point, and then kind of COVID hit at that time as well. So it was all a timing thing. And then we made the decision, right, I need to move back to the city centre. So that was the decision to leave Stirling behind at that particular point and go into Buchanan Street. And then we came through and have built that business from there, you know. But Shannon had already started that process going. But coming together has been incredible. You know, for that business, you know,
because you even see just simply in your staff levels. Since the two of you have done that, and the jump from there's massive. And certainly, I mean, it was a big risk for Shannon and yourself going in at the time, because it wasn't, for all it was always the juggernaut. It had a period where, you know, when we're not talking out of school, it didn't have the focus and the direction that, quite frankly, it should have had, for all the reasons that happened. And
well, a lot of that had been taken out of it. You know, so you had your 2 operators at the top. Nothing in the middle. And then we had a bunch of assistants and a young stylist coming through, and that was the opportunity. You know, so Alan's, well, there's your opportunity, because you know you've got the heritage.
What a great salesman! What a great salesman.
He obviously knows how my brain goes, though. Because I'm like that. Danger. Let's do it.
I'll dive in.
So and that was literally it. And me and Shannon sort of sat and talked about it, and it was all of those things. It was like, oh my God, this is like the flagship. This is where it all began. There was big personalities at the top. There was nothing in the middle. And then we had to, and literally the goal and the role was to develop all of these young people that were just kind of coming to the end of training, or brand new assistants, to get them coming through. And that's how it started. And you know, we developed this thing. And what is amazing about that is the longevity, as you say, of the team. I mean, literally, we've got people in that salon that have been there 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5 years. So every member of that team, of which there's 30 in there, bar Pam, from Joy all the way down, has come through the Rainbow Room Academy.
Which is brilliant. And that's quite unique now too, isn't it? That's super unique.
Every single person, and they've all been... So... it's like the most family environment. I mean, and our simple role between me and Shannon, and we talk to each other about it all the time, our goal is just to make it a fun space for everyone to be in. And that's our goal. Every day I say, our role is to make sure the team is super happy, enjoying coming through the door and having a great time there. You know, and she's the master at that. She's unbelievable at, you know, sort of engaging with the team, listening and all this type of thing. So we gradually built that up, you know, to where it is now.
So how long were you in before you had the unenviable task of having to redevelop it and do it up?
So, because it's a big salon.
Well, it'd only ever have, from when Alan had opened it and all my time in it, it'd only ever been tweaked and evolved, and the backwash changed, or the chairs changed, or the sections, they went through the Japanese vibe, and they would always tweak it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the reception changed a bit, and the floor changed. It did change, but it changed the same, if that makes sense.
Same but different.
It kind of evolved.
Yeah.
Whereas you revolved.
Yeah.
When you went for it.
So we took it over in
Which again's a running theme, innit? We're back. It's again, if I'm going to do it, may as well dive in.
Well, exactly. I mean, we took it over in 2008, and every year we did just the same, a bit, just to freshen it up. We literally got to the point going, this now looks tired. The floor was, tiles that big, on this huge floor space, and all the ground, it was black, and we just kind of looked around and said, right, okay. So again, we went back to Linda and Alan, and on the business footing, we were looking at cash flow and what this was going to take. And Dougie at that point, and Dougie's the guy that's done all the salons, was kind of not doing it, and I had a big conversation, and I said to Shannon, is if we got the finances, we speak to Alan and Linda about their original plan, and we make sure Dougie's the guy that designs it, and if all of that comes together, we'll do it. Right. So I went to Dougie, and Dougie said, right, I'll do it. So we went to Alan and Linda, and we said, look, what we want to understand is, why did you lay it out like that in the first place? We wanted to know their story of why does the salon look, because it's not salons, it's not mirrors along the walls, it's like little pods. And Alan was like, I always wanted it to feel like a restaurant. I didn't want it to feel like a salon.
They were all tables.
And then because Dougie obviously and Alan are so close, he knows the whole story. So we went to Dougie and we just said, Dougie, we're just going to leave you to design it, to do it. And oh God, the cost was, and because we literally made the decision, he came back and he said, we've got to strip this out. He said, we can't build on top of what's there. No. We've got to rip it all out, literally to the four walls, and then build it back again in the new style. Even
the top of the sections give me the fear. That's of all of the things in there, I've always went, I wonder how much the top of those sections cost. Because obviously the thing that jumps out of it, and Alan was always passionate about, it's never really left him, was an Art Deco vibe. And B Street is screaming it now, and where it was maybe hinted at, and some of the way you used to do the toilets, or even the type fonts that were used, there would be little elements of it. You go into that space now, and there's no getting away from that. That's obviously where you went from, but then that's you going back to the core of what he was trying to do in 79.
Well, it was, because remember the old Art Deco letters, and we went back to that, and of course Shannon's, and so Dougie came in, so these are the big chandeliers you're talking about above the units. What is amazing about that salon is everything had been literally hand-built by Doug and his team. So nothing was pre-ordered from a company that shipped it up. It was literally made. So he came in and he goes, I've got this idea, this deco idea. And he goes, but it's going to be a little bit, and you know what Shannon's like? She's like that. Yes. Make it bigger, make it brighter. So that guy, Dougie. So and that whole refurb took 3 months. It was 2019 we went and did it. So we took a big loan to go and do this, because if we're going to do it, we're going to do it big, and we're going to do it right. Of
course.
And that's what we did, So sat down with Shannon, we held hands, let's go do it.
You saying it, it.
So we start in 2019, I think at the start of the year, and I think Dougie told me it'd be 6 weeks. 3.5, 4 months later, they're still working away, because it's got to. So we get in May, and then COVID hits, end of that year. So, we were just like, oh wow.
Well, that's one word for it.
So,
and were you working out at 24? Were you working on the second floor at 24 at the time?
David was amazing. I mean, David was absolutely amazing. So we have this big sister salon in 24 Exchange Square, and we were like, look, and I was like to David, took him to the pub as you do, sort of like. So I mean, 4 maybe 6 weeks, David, and it's like, right, okay, you can do that. He goes, and you can have that floor, and we'll have that floor. I said, right, okay. And literally they allowed us to go there for 3.5 months. Now, we were so lucky with that position because we could still trade. I think we would have struggled to keep that business afloat if we didn't have the option of because it just ran over and it ran over and it ran over, and it was nobody's fault.
As they all do.
As they all do. Now, maybe it ran over because we were in the other business, so there was less pressure.
You're not maybe putting the pressure on.
But then that was a lot for David as well, to take, because Buchanan Street is a big, big team. So again, that's your kind of rainbow room synthesis, though, isn't it? Everybody's there for everybody else at that time.
But that was always unique for those salons. I mean, famously, when Liberty was below Buchanan Street, their toaster was below their smoke alarm in the staff room, and you would be out in the street twice a week, Perhams, colours and all that, and you would be, some would have to run to 15 to get rents, and some would have to run to 24.
Still
obviously
happens.
15 famously had the flood and ended up there. And then George Square had, when they were getting refurbed, then sometimes they were in 24, sometimes obviously the Academy as well, because we're definitely blessed that within that square foot, that sort of circle of space in Glasgow, there's a lot of square footage of rainbow roomdom that you can operate in, but that's unique.
Before we got refit, I remember when the corner of the ceiling came down in that salon because of the old building and the drains had flooded, and that's where the coffee machine was. And literally, I mean, I was in the other salon that morning. Shannon went to the coffee machine, and she just took her hand away, and the ceiling came down. And she just rang me. She goes, "We've got a hole in the ceiling." So I'm thinking, a hole in the ceiling? No, it's a quarter of the ceiling. But again, we still managed to operate the salon. We moved the whole team down to the other end of the salon. And
I always thought you'd built like a clever wee office. I thought, I wonder if he's doing consultations or something in there. That looks really, really clever, but it wasn't. It was just, it actually looked deliberate for a while, which was good. But yeah, that's a massive undertaking, because again, you'd only seen it from the start at GWR and Stirling, and open the doors, and whereas the idea of going, we're going to need to shut up shop, and it's that big, and then obviously COVID and everything after that. But certainly COVID didn't slow B Street down, did it?
COVID was I mean, at the time it was slightly surreal, wasn't it? I mean, I remember that I think we had all made the decision to close on the Saturday before the lockdown on the Monday, and it hadn't even been announced. And as a company, we said we need to close. Now at this point, there was nothing. The government hadn't come up with any support.
The pubs on the Friday night, well, don't go to the pubs, but they're opened. You're like, what does that mean?
So we closed the businesses on the Saturday, and it was this, hopefully this will be over and done with quite quick. On the Monday, lockdown was launched, and I remember on the Thursday was when Rishi Sunak came out with the, furlough system. And I remember we sat on the sofa, and literally Shannon burst into tears because she was just like, oh my God, we can keep everybody. Because at that point, we were like, how are we going to... Nobody knew what was going to happen.
That was everybody's thought, wasn't that, because at the end of the day, the worst comes to us, we could all pick a pair of scissors up and go work somewhere. But we had all of these people under our stewardship that were either at the start of their journey, or wife and kids and, husbands and all that kind of stuff. And the idea that, as you rightly say, our job is to create an environment for these people to flourish and to hopefully have the opportunities that we have. And the idea that was getting taken away from all of us, out with their control. But you weren't. Nobody would have been in a position to save it.
No, and that was, and I think then that allowed us as a group to make good decisions because we weren't panicking.
No.
So then again, rainbow room mode, everyone kind of gets in. We're doing everything by Zoom now. You remember? So suddenly, sitting around the table, we're sat on the computer, and whilst sort of all the teams were kind of just doing their thing, whatever they did through COVID, we were there every week as directors making decisions. So actually, the bounce back from the first lockdown was amazing because we had this 3-month pent up desire for people to come into salons. So it absolutely exploded, and we were locked down again, and then we had that bounce back again. But no, the salon literally from that has grown every single year. And it's all around retention. Everything that we have developed there has been retaining the team and allowing the team to grow and flourish. And these teams are making really great lives for themselves. This is employed, because they are focused in what they do. They have amazing clientele. they generate incredible salaries, and they're having a great time. You know,
and I think with an industry that's in turmoil, and we're weeks away from what could be a very interesting budget, and we don't, and hairdressing seems to, for some reason, it's slap bang in the middle, to the point where you know, your politicians are saying we don't want to be taking money out of hairdressers' pockets. I mean, they've actually even said it out loud. You're like, wow. So that's going to be really interesting, but it's the fact that, you know, you've got this group and they're flourishing and they're flying just now. Off the back of all of that, that's then not the end of, you know, so most people could now sit and go, well, do you know what? That's great. I've got my boys, I've got my missus.
Yeah.
She's a tour de force.
Yeah.
Do what I'm told. I'm a happy man.
Yeah.
Happy wife, happy life, all that stuff. The business is flying. Everybody's going through. But in amongst all of this, you decide that the person that maybe when he was full of testosterone at 14, 15 didn't want to hit the books. Yeah. You then hit the books.
Hit the books.
And you hit the books. Big time. So do you want to tell us about this part of your journey?
Yeah, so again, it wasn't planned. So I was in Stirling at this time. I was coming to the end of that journey, and I knew Buchanan Street was then going to be my main journey. And just at that time, there was a company going around doing this UK tour of a trichology qualification. Yeah. First time it's ever been an actual bona fide qualification. Now, I'd always had an interest in science, and I thought, oh, I'm quite interested, but only to the interest of doing it. So I've looked into it, and they were just basically talking about this quality, and they did two options. They did an introduction, which was 10% of the total qualification, and then they had a full trichology qualification. Right. So I went to this roadshow, and I almost never went because it was in Stirling, and I was home in Glasgow. And I was sat there, and I thought, oh, it's that trichology roadshow tonight. I'll just go. Sliding doors moment. So drove all the way to Stirling, sat with these guys, and they presented this thing. I thought, that's really interesting. But I only was interested in the introduction part because I was getting older as a hairdresser. Yeah. My clients are getting older. Yeah. They're starting to have different conversations with me. I'm worried about my density. I'm worried about my scalp. And I didn't have any answers. Yeah. So I saw this 10% as something I can learn to give them more information. Right. So went out, and I got really interested with the guys. I said, look, I'm going to drive up tomorrow. I said, do you fancy having a coffee? And I'll meet you at the hotel in the morning, because I was staying over. Met them all and said, tell me more about this. So they told me more. I said, I'm going to do the intro. So they said, right, okay. So I signed on. The intro came through. I started it about 2 weeks later, and there was 10 different parts of the intro. And by module 3, I was like, I love this. This is great. Right. So I said, I want to do the full education. Okay, oh, it's £3,500. So I went to Shannon saying, I said, I really quite fancy doing this. And in typical Shannon says, well, you can do it, but you absolutely finish it and you qualify and you do the whole thing. Yeah, yeah. So I said, right, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And again, I still didn't do it, you know, consciously. It was just at that moment in time when I was having the conversation with the clients. What made me go for the full qualification was people like, what are you doing? Psychology? No, not psychology. I'm doing trichology. Yeah, yeah. Easy for me to say. Yeah. So you know, they're like, what is that? I said, well, it's the science of it. It's hair thinning, scalp disease, these type of things. Oh, I've got a mum, a brother, a sister. Yeah. You know, I said, really? I said, where are they going? There is nobody. There isn't anybody. So I thought, there's a gap here. Yeah, yeah. So that's when I signed on for the qualification, and when it landed, you know, it's like, oh my God, what have I done? Yeah. So it was 2 years studying, and it was working in the salon through the day, getting home to their wife and their kids, sitting with them in the evening time. They all went off to bed at 10 o'clock, and it was studying from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock. And that's how it was. And was it modular? Were you passing modules, or was there like an exam at the end? Or so I was one of the first people to go into this qualification. Right. So as I was going through, they were still building the qualification. Wow. So I was in stage 1, and they were finishing stage 3. I'd moved stage 2. So it was a learning process for everybody. Right. But like I say, Shannon's in the background saying, you finished. So it was a lot of self-learning. And there was parent over shoulder. Yeah, but, you know, there was a lot of sacrifice to it as well. Of course. But I got through. So the long and short of it is that I qualified 2 years later. Yeah. And then I just literally started the clinic, which is Trichology Scotland, which is basically consultative work. So all I am now is a skilled, qualified practitioner Trichology is like a branch of dermatology, but it only specialises with scalp disease, hair, thinning conditions, and that's where I work. And just started that off, and I just got a Facebook page, and I just built a really cheap website, and I thought, I don't know how this is going to go. So I was working in the salon 5 days, and I decided to do this one evening a week. They booked up, so I thought, right, I'll now just take one day, and I'll do 4 days in the salon. I'll do 1 day, booked up, and the whole thing has grown. So I qualified in 2017, and now, you know, I'm half the time in trichology, and I'm half the time in the salon, because they're two very different hats, completely different.
But is it unique coming from the hairdressing side that you've already got that client empathy?
Totally.
And understanding what the needs from what stylistically they want to do with their hair, that then you can take into what they're having to go to do from a sort of medical side.
And that was actually the whole concept of the qualification from the education company that did it. They thought hairdressers are going to be perfect trichologists because we can teach them the medical skills of diagnosis and treatment pathways and blood reading and all the different things that we do. But they know that we understand the emotional connection that people have with their hair. So it is that empathy, and that's probably the biggest thing that I get out of a consultation when I finish somebody going, it's so nice to talk to somebody that takes me seriously because I'm worried about my hair. It is. It's hugely emotive. If you've got scalp issues, hair issues, it affects people's persona.
Totally.
But I only do one thing on one day and the other thing on the other day, you know, so I'm either a trichologist or I'm a hairdresser, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That would be my issue. I wouldn't be able to change hats.
No,
because I can't even do it from a paperwork guy, hairdresser guy. I can't flip.
No, and trichology is very emotional, it's very personal, and it's a lot of deep, you know, consultative, whereas hairdressing is up tempo, it's all fat, you know, happy feelings. But at no point do I ever see myself leaving hairdressing, even though this is so busy. I mean, the clinics are literally booked out 4 to 6 weeks in advance now. So I started in Glasgow City in Buchanan Street, so I've got my office there. And then in April last year, I just went, there's nobody in Edinburgh. So went over to see friends of ours in Edinburgh. You know, they got sort of salons over there, and said, you know, I'm just looking for an office. You know Edinburgh really well. Can you help me? And he went, that's really weird. Just one of my spaces has just come free this week. Says you can take that one if you want to. Wow. And that's in city centre Edinburgh. So I started Edinburgh, and that's just gone really busy.
Because I think as well, where we are at this time as well, is that it's never been talked about more in its life. Now, yes, you can say that's because that's at the age group that we are, but we're seeing it in younger and younger and younger people, be that diet, be that lifestyle, and some of the things they're putting in and out their bodies these days are having a huge effect on their hair and their well-being in general. So again, talk about sliding doors and hitting things at the right time. It was bang on. Bang on.
It again, and I love it. I mean, I genuinely, I never studied it to practice it, but when I saw that there was an opportunity, I finished the qualification and went through there. But I think it's so needed as well, you know, because you know you go into your phone a minute, you talk about hair loss or scalp disease, the algorithms bang.
Massive.
There's so much out there that isn't effective. There's so many companies selling things that are never going to deliver the results that people are looking for. So really what trichology is, it's finding the root cause of what is causing this. So we study 5 things. So we study, you know, cardiovascular system, digestive system, you know, the hormone endocrine system, you know, and the skin system. And literally it's working out what is happening at a biological level that is having this side effect, to be the hair thinning or scalp effects. Now I can only diagnose, you know, because I don't do, you know, steroid injections. That's not me. So what I can do is then signpost people to the specialist that they need. Is it a dermatologist? Is it an endocrinologist? You know, whatever that might be.
But it's a massive shortcut, isn't it?
It's a massive shortcut.
And they're not going down, because that's the one thing, and we would never want to be a snake oil salesman when it comes to these things. And you do see, you know, as a man with no hair under this hat, the amount of nonsense that is advertised. Thanks very much. The amount of nonsense that's out there that allegedly, you know, restores hair and all this kind of nonsense is out there, and you know, it's, you know, fake news. You know, it's trying to break that down, and it's unique that you can actually get to sit in a room with somebody and get it explained. The flip side of that is, needless to say, every time we're testing a new Rainbow Room product, Mr. Fleeson gets hit with it first. We're going, is that good? Does it work? Does it do what it says in the tin? But that's again another unique thing that you can bring back to the brand, and we're all learning from it all the time. You know, even when we'll get Schwarzkopf launching new things to us and all that, they're saying one thing and the whole room turns round to Will to see if he nods or not, and you know, if he's nodding, going, all right, well, they're telling us the truth.
But it's good. I mean, it's a good industry, and next year we're going to be, you know, like you said earlier, we do the directors do all of their education. You know, so often I do the barbering education, all of that side. So we're going to develop trichology education. It's just going to allow all of our teams to come in and understand a little bit more how to have a conversation with the client.
Great.
You know, when they're looking at something, hairdressers are amazing, by the way. We are amazing at spotting issues. So to be able to allow these teams to understand what these issues may be and where they're going to. So I think as a brand thing, that's going to be really amazing.
Making it comfortable to bring it up.
Absolutely.
Well. I think that's always the thing, that you might see the thing and you don't want to sort of cross some sort of personal boundary, but at the end of the day, that's the advice that the client's ultimately looking for that, and it's just another factor of caring, you know. And if we can look like we care more than everybody else, which hopefully we try to do and have tried to do forever, then, you know, that's great. But that's amazing that you bring that through. So coming up to your 30th anniversary next year, 2026, what's that one massive bit of advice you would have said to, so you're in Central Station, you bump into yourself and it's you that's the guy going, do you want to know where the drumming monkey is? What would you be saying to that, Will?
Just do it. Just, you know, the world is no different now to what it was in 1996. So there's a world of, in our industry, in each salon, there's a wealth of opportunities. So I think, you know, every person that's gone into hairdressing has chosen that career. If that's your career choice, just make the absolute most of it, because you can still do artistic things in Rainbow Room. We've got a huge artistic team. You can still do management in Rainbow Room. You can still open salons. All of the opportunities that were there for me in 1996 are there for all our generations to come in the future. But knock on the door. Linda always said, knock on the door, otherwise the opportunities go back. So knock on the door, you know, make things happen, and don't be afraid of what may be, because those voices in our head always hold us back. And I think it goes all the way back to, you know, my you know, young teenage years. Losing my parents very, very young probably gave me a different perception of life. So, but you know, the fear of not doing something is always, you know, far greater for me than the fear, you know, of not taking that challenge on and then taking it. And that's what Sterling was. I remember Sterling came to me and I thought, see, if I don't do this, somebody else is going to do this. And see if that other person does that and makes an absolute success of it, I will just beat myself up all the time. And that's always been the mindset. And I think that's my only thing for people is, you know, go for it and enjoy it.
Well, it screams out of it. I mean, the whole 2 hours, you know, first half and second half it's not fear, it's bravery. You know, you've been brave to look all of these different situations, and the up ones, the down ones, and all the in-betweens. You've looked them smack in the face and went, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough, basically is what you've done there. And if anybody has spent the time listening or watching and doesn't get that out of it, they've listened to a completely different podcast than I've been lucky enough to take part in.
Nice of you to say.
So, well, thank you.
No, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're such a great mate, and these things are amazing. So thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.